The French Art Nouveau style emerged at the end of the 19th century as the British arts and crafts movement declined in importance. It influenced the applied and decorative arts, especially jewellery. Combining decoration with functional designs, this art form was a rejection of those shoddy, machine-made products symptomatic of the industrial era, and its role was to reintroduce beauty into daily life. As a result, it wasn't surprising to see hair ornament accessories becoming true works of art. The ample hairstyles of the time were the perfect showcase for these ornaments. But in this postcard we have the contrary. The comb is the frame of the image of the woman. Curved lines were fundamental to the Art Nouveau style. They determined the outline as well as the decoration, weaving in and out of each other, and they created designs that were truly three-dimensional. Wavy and graceful arabesques were selected for their dynamism, which perfectly translated the organic flow of life. These traceries can even lend a slack and limp effect to metallic ornaments. Far from the formal and academic patterns that had prevailed up until then, designers were able to give their imagination free rein. Nature was their main source of inspiration. The curves on the ornaments were enriched with foliage. It was a wild and spontaneous nature, not as tamed as it had been before. Sprays and flowers stand out from their settings. Horn became the favourite material for comb designers. The well-known French goldsmith, René Lalique, was the first to reveal its modelling qualities. Many other artists hastened to follow his trend and, like him, signed their work, which was very unusual and had never been done beforehand on such objects. Following the style of the master, they carved bleached horn, choosing unusual floral motifs like these honesty seed pods or these Virginia creeper leaves. Touches of paint is one of the distinctive signs of Art Nouveau hair combs. In this artistic movement, the woman had a new freedom that allowed her to express her sensuality. Her finery added to her mystery, like this metallic band set on a mother-of-pearl background that is adorned with stones of glass and wild pearls. Artists from the Art Nouveau style put an emphasis on femininity, accentuating all the qualities they wanted to highlight, such as beauty, delicacy, gentleness, and dreaminess. What typified Art Nouveau was the combining of unexpected materials, like horn, silver, and both precious and semi-precious stones. This piece is a good example and evokes Lucien Gaillard's or Georges Fouquet's creations. This one, maybe even finer, is another illustration of this principle. At first sight, their shape and decoration seem minimalist, but it is easy to see how elaborate the piece really is. This aesthetic approach has its origins in Japanese art. After the Universal Exhibition of 1897, the Japanese style had a strong influence on Western women's hairstyles as well. Combs started appearing in threes in order to hold up and to embellish the bun. The garland motif prevailed, here associating blonde tortoiseshell with gold. This photograph dates back to 1907. It shows a different version of the fashion of flowers in the hair. These ones are made of velvet or satin. Sometimes the scrolls break away into a new space and create a new shape. Or they catch the eye with an unusual angle. The famous architect Victor Horta said, "Let us prefer the stem and the bud to the flower in bloom." The woman and the flower are symbolic images frequently associated. Here she raises her eyes upwards, looking elsewhere, maybe for another kind of reality. Their tenderness and their fragility have always been a strong source of inspiration for artists, who aim to translate these delicate feelings into their creations. Horn is the perfect material for this style of modelling. It can be bent, carved, veined, painted, or even frosted to create a pearly effect. More than just a simple hairpin, combs of the time took on more daring shapes. These hair ornaments, directly inspired by Mother Nature, transformed an everyday object into a beautiful and touching creation. This flower seems to be alive, growing up the comb as if it were on a trellis. Thanks to this close-up, we can appreciate the very fine and silky carving work. Even if the artist's name is not very well known, his signature is the proof of the effort and care he took to make such a unique jewel. Few hair slides were made at that time, but they were always attractive to look at, while at the same time being affordable to the more modest customers. Art for everyone was one of the themes that ran through the art world during this period. Yet more sophisticated, this piece depicting a daisy catches one's attention. The gilded brass flower is bejewelled with an opalescent cabochon. It is set on an ivory comb, expertly cut out to follow the outline of the flower. The daisy was typical of Art Nouveau motifs, it being the epitome of simplicity. Nevertheless, it was a challenge for artists to represent its petals blowing in the wind, its changing volume and glints in the sunshine, its haziness according to the light. This is a piece signed G.I.P., alias George Pierre, whose name is rather sought after by collectors today. In comparison, this later made comb is less naturalistic. A black line stresses the frame and restricts the importance of the decorative flowers. It is signed by Burleson, maybe a designer from Oyonnax, a French factory that was well known for its comb production. The famous actress Sarah Bernhardt had her own way of popularizing the image of women and flowers together. Similarly, this comb is in the form of two symmetrical flowering umbels, whose leaves join in the center to form a small heart. Cherry or apple blossom were frequently represented because of their significance in Japanese art forms. In this culture, images of women and flowers have been closely linked for centuries. This floral style achieves its high point when the use of the object is transcended by the emotions which are provoked by its sheer beauty. An example is this iris, which, together with the orchid, was a favoured theme in Art Nouveau jewellery. They are loved and admired for their crumpled and twisted petals, as well as for their plump and vigorous outlines. The horn has been carved with such skill and perfection that it almost comes to life. We've already seen the Japanese influence on Western hairstyles, but it has extended even further than that. It has altered our view of nature and made us take a closer look at those more insignificant of creatures. It is attentive to the smallest and most delicate of animals, those that have an ephemeral, tenuous existence on Earth. The world of insects and their environment was rediscovered in the most naturalistic way. This locust seems to have alighted on blades of grass waving gently in the breeze. Thanks to the delicate touches of the sculptor, this work has ascended to a higher level and has to be viewed in a more noble light. The ethereal and diaphanous dragonfly was like a breath of fresh air to the imagination of Art Nouveau artists. It seems to be on the point of flying away, because we've almost forgotten it's only a comb. Up until this moment, paint was not supposed to embellish an ornament, but it's clear from this detail that it adds a lot to making the motif more realistic. The honey tone of horn, enhanced with tiny paste stones, matches perfectly with the green body of the insect. This piece is attributed to Elizabeth Bonte. Long hairstyles remain the best setting for showing off these ornaments. In fact, the image of the woman, often allegorical and mythical, is never far away from these depictions. Birds have always had an important and symbolic role in nature. Peacocks evoke love through their dazzling plumage and their seductive dance. They are often depicted in pairs, their bodies forming an original and harmonious geometry. They are facing each other here on a painted celluloid model designed by Auguste Bonnat, the famous stylist from Oyonnax. These two peacocks are less figurative. They're typical of Art Nouveau gilt brass jewellery. The exquisite craftwork here reminds us of the expertise of Lalique's pieces. On a noisier and more vigorous note, here we see two sparrows fighting over red berries. Their strongly flapping wings are arranged as if in a dance. Their bodies are unsteady, but form a stunning symmetry that creates a delightful balance to the piece. This work of art is signed Albert Vigan, a famous designer from the 1900s. From the flying insects, then birds, we pass on to slithering and crawling creatures. The undulations of their bodies are particularly interesting. They scare us, thrill us, and so are intriguing to us. They act as a bridge between the real and the imaginary worlds. The dragon is the most eloquent figure. Its reptilian body incarnated the occult, appealing to those who were attracted by Gothic themes from the Middle Ages. This stunning piece, signed by Auguste Bonnat, encourages the viewer to overcome his repulsion to get closer to a world of fantasy and imagination. The figure of the woman has to conclude this exhibition. By turns seductive, frightening, and elusive, she represents the dark angles of the universe. Laden with all men's fantasies, the woman focuses on her roots, which were the inspiration of the Art Nouveau movement: imagination, dreams, and mystery. Her abundant and wavy hair still flow like a stream over her body to reveal her sensuality. But this movement broke down very abruptly. From 1905, a new artistic style took its place. It muzzled the freedom and frightening creativity that existed, and imposed its own order and rationality.